It is, what's today's date? Thursday, October the 31st, 2024, and the time is 8:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, earlier today, I talked about how they lied to us. And in that discussion, I was talking about how they always talk about white supremacy and make us think that, our Caucasian brothers and sisters are the adversary, the enemy of the whole planet. And what I said in my live that I did earlier today is the people that really ruled the world are actually classified as Moors. So there have been a faction of Moors fighting against the other faction of Moors for a very long time. The Moors are the Aboriginal people of the planet, or the brown people of the planet. When you look all over the planet, the original Asians are brown, the original Europeans are brown, the original Russians are brown, the original Americans are copper colored people that look like me. So the so-called Black Americans here in America, we're actually the Aboriginal people, the original. AB means from or of, the original people here. So I was talking about how there is a bloodline of beings that's behind the Europeans who run the planet. And these beings are the Moors. So they say they're a faction called the Dirty Moors versus the Good Moors. And many of the Moors that are running the planet are actually some human and some human hybrids that are mixed with extraterrestrials, or I should say interdimensional beings that came here to enslave the humans here and to steal the resources. So I was talking about how it's amazing that we've been lied to about everything, and how when I studied with many faction of the Moors and then I've done my own research and many other people, I came to find out that white supremacy was a paradigm and a fake control system that was created by brown people to enslave other brown people as well as other races of people, because they wanted to fight against each other, the different Moors, but also control the resources on the planet. So come on in, family, check in. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I'm just venting right now. I'm talking about how they lied to us. Check in, let us know where you're hailing from. I'm just going to keep going because the truth is coming out. So in my live earlier today, I was saying how I was talking to one of my friends who has classified information because he is, doing some work to take down the deep state. And he doesn't look like me. He's a Caucasian brother. We're fond of each other. He's a really good friend. I've been following him for years. He's been following me. And we were talking about how geopolitically, you have different entities that are enslaving the planet, and how they created governments like the United States Incorporated and other governments all over the world to enslave the people and to control us. And now they've overtaken the Democratic Party, which is Democrats or liberals, and now become more like tyrants. They're not the Democrats, your grandparents knew. They're like crazy. So when we were talking about that, I said, thank you for, indulging me in this conversation, because I know there's only a certain amount of information you can tell me, because he's fed up, right? I said, but let's talk about the so-called Black people or the Moors that's behind the Caucasians or behind the white supremacists. Can we talk about how there's a Black nobility? I said, because I'm really getting tired of this whole racism rhetoric and this division between the so-called racists. I said, let's talk about the Black nobility. Nobody talks about the Black nobility. Nobody talks about the fact that there's a Black Pope. And he said, oh yeah, there's a Black Pope, a white Pope, and a gray Pope. I said, well, who is this bloodline of Moors or Black folks that are actually over the Caucasians or Europeans that's controlling the planet? He said, oh, those are two bloodlines. He says many bloodlines, but the two major ones are the Orsini and the Medici. I was like, get out of here. And he said, and they are attached to or are relatives of, allegedly, Haile Selassie. I said, say what? I said, but Haile Selassie is African. He said, no. Haile Selassie was here in America and he fled to Africa. I said, wow. Makes sense now. And I've always wondered why my Ethiopian brothers and sisters assume that my children and I are Ethiopian. They talk to us in their language. I've been guys have tried to court me, thinking I'm Ethiopian. I'm like, I'm not Ethiopian, but I have the same features as they. They were here and they fled to Africa, allegedly. So that's just something I want to say. We got to do our research. This is crazy, but that's not it. There are other bloodline families that are Moors or present as Black that have been fighting each other for a very, very long time. And when these Moors came from Europe, they brought indentured servants, right? They brought Europeans here. And those Moors blended here in America, and they enslaved us, the Aboriginal copper-colored people found here by Christopher Columbus, erroneous called Black folks or African American. We didn't come from African slave ships. That's a lie from the pit of hell. If we ask our grandparents and great grandparents about that slave story, they all told us, "Nah, I ain't never heard of that, baby. You Cherokee, you Blackfoot. We got Indian in our family." So those Moors who brought the indentured servant here, our European brothers and sisters, also brought their sex slaves, the Caucasian women here. Crazy. And they enslaved us here, or they took, away the resources and whatnot. And they basically then made us, prisoners of war. They stole our identity and by lying to us saying we some slave ships. But when you think about it, there are no slave ships that exist. Now, if you had controlled and conquered a whole landmass, a whole continent, because America is not a country, it's a continent, and all of the states here are actually countries. We call it Turtle Island, America. And the Americas, if you had conquered the Americas and you had enslaved some people from Africa and brought them across the Atlantic Ocean in wooden boats, no less, wouldn't you still have those ships? And wouldn't you put those ships in the museum? But there are none. There are no ships in the museums. They lied. But what they did put in the museums, like the Smithsonian, is our artifacts. That's what they put in the museum. So they could lie to us and say, you're Black, you're Negroid. Now, we were the Aboriginal people. And then you got to look up Walter Plecker and some of the other eugenics and people that were over the Census Bureau who changed our classification from Aboriginal or Indigenous to colored, then Negro, then Black, and then African American. African American actually is a classification of meats and produce. Look that up. It's crazy. So they lied to us. In fact, we used to not like to be called Black. I remember my aunts and uncles and daddy saying, "Don't you call me Black," because they knew that we were Cherokee, we were Blackfoot, we were Indigenous, we were Washita. They knew us by our tribes. But the Deep State commissioned James Brown to come up with that song, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud," to try to make that classification something to be proud of. But people that look like me had a classification of white because we had land. White allegedly meant pure. It does in some dictionaries. And then when the indentured servants or the slaves came here from Europe, their classification was Black because they didn't have land and they were treated as dead people. And that's a terrible, horrible thing. I have Caucasian friends to this day that say, why do you guys take so great pleasure of being allegedly a descendant of slaves? That's like, why do y'all like boast in that? And they've told me, they said, nobody talks about the Irish who were enslaved. Nobody talks about the Slavics who were enslaved. Nobody talks about the Italians who were enslaved. The Sicilians who still know their roots, that they are Aboriginal, that they are related to the copper-colored people in their region. So my friends are like, are we going to get reparations too? And I'm like, you got a point, So they changed our classification. They then, when they brought the indentured servants over here, or they brought the Europeans over here, they were allowed to rule themselves. They had their own constitution. They had their own flag. So the so-called American flag, the red, white, and blue flag, is not the flag of this Moroccan empire. The Moroccan empire started here. Everything started here. That's why the Garden of Eden was in Florida. That's why we have pyramids, more pyramids in the Americas than anywhere else. That's why in the Grand Canyon, you have gold, you have pyramids, you have mummies, you have a lot of stuff buried there. Because this is America. America is Egypt. America is Israel. The Hebrew people are the people that look like me. It all started right here. So you guys have heard the story before. And I've mentioned before that when you look up the 1828 Webster's definition of American, it will literally say the copper colored people found here by Christopher Columbus, but now applied to Europeans. And then it says we're all American, yada, yada, yada. But the Moors from Europe, who controlled Europe from 711 to 1492, taught the Europeans, certain things, like they taught them how to bathe. And, I think that was called the Renaissance era, taught them about culture and things like that. They had to teach the new people, or the later humans, certain things because they came on the planet later. This is my understanding. But anyway, they brought them here as slaves and sex slaves and indentured servants, but many of them were really trying to escape what was being done to them over there. Because even though they were being taught to do certain things or have culture or whatever, a lot of them were being molested. A lot of their children, their organs were being harvested. A lot of them had adrenochrome siphoned from them. The same thing that we're going through right here in this timeline, it was going on in Europe. The same thing that's going on here was going on in Asia. And that's allegedly why the Asians, or the Mongoloid people, escaped through the Bering Strait and came here to the Americas. Those are what you all call the Native Americans. Native means you come from somewhere else. They're not the Aboriginals. We are. The Native Americans are the Asian. That's why they look Asian. Mongoloid people who were escaping war, having their organs harvested, having their children sacrificed to Baal. Remember, the Bible says, don't sacrifice your children to Baal or to Molech. It was going on all across the planet forever. Not just by the so-called Moors, but these interdimensional beings that came to the planet. Remember, the sons of God made it with the daughters of men. The angels, or the Nephilim, or the extraterrestrial interdimensional beings, made it with humans. They not only made it with humans, they then made other humans by splicing genes and mating humans with animals. That's why some humans come out with tails, mating them with animals, creating other so-called races, which is why different beings had to evolve and be taught certain ritualistic, and when I mean ritualistic things like cultural type of things, because they wanted to civilize these new humans. And no telling how many humans we've had here on this planet. So the Moors came here, and, unbeknownst to a lot of people, a lot of interdimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings, actually, some of them are copper colored, some of them are midnight black. Okay, they came here to the Americas, and they went all over the planet, and they masqueraded as the people, the indigenous people, right? And they also fought against many of the Aboriginal people here. And then, like I said, they made us indentured servants or prisoners of war, took away our identity, stole our artifacts, hid them in the Smithsonian. Some say they wouldn't allow us to use our own language. Took away a lot, took us out of or enticed us out of the educational system of our own families, and put us in public schools so they can teach us this whole slavery story, which is a lie. Then they have slavery Hollywood movies to make you think that you're a slave, and that way you can be perpetually a victim by saying you're a slave. And then with the Europeans who came here, they had their own way of doing things. They conducted trade and commerce. They had their own flag. They were their own people. That 13 colonies, 13 bloodlines. that number 13 is interesting. They had their own way of doing things. And if you recall, Obama and Trump said the Moroccan Empire were the first to allow us to have our own way of being. They acknowledged us as our own nation because they were a nation within a nation. They came here, they had their own nation. Now, the Moors, the dirty Moors who came from Europe, again, conquered the people here, and then they put systems in place like white supremacy. And then they put they enticed or hired or whatever the Caucasian or European people here who came here and gave them certain jobs. And these were gatekeeping positions. So it's crazy. The plot is so crazy. Certain jobs. And there's like 9 segments or sectors of society: politics, education, religion, what else? Finances, sex, medicine, and I can't think of the others. So they put them in certain positions, entice them, but they also gave certain Black people, so-called Black people, positions as long as they pledged to these secret societies and agreed to participate in these rituals like sex rituals, sex magic, blood rituals, child hunting parties, because the beings that were controlling these rituals and controlling these people that they put in power are non-human. So in order to make it to these positions, you had to pledge allegiance to these entities, like the Skull and Bones had to pledge allegiance to the Skull and Bones for the Europeans. If you were from the Aboriginal bloodline, you had to pledge to the Boule, which is the brother organization of the Skull and Bones. And the whole purpose of the Boule was to protect the king or to protect the Skull and Bones and to perpetuate so-called white supremacy. But white supremacy had nothing to do with Europeans and Caucasians. White supremacy was the system that they put in place, the corporation. So whereas before, we, the Aboriginal people, had the classification of white, and the people coming from Europe and any so-called slaves had the classification of Black. They flipped it on us. They switched it. Remember, they taught us everything in reverse. And then they gave us the classification of Black, meaning you're dead, you have no standing in law, and gave them the classification of white, the Europeans. Put them in key positions over the copper colored people here to gatekeep. Meanwhile, the dirty Moors, the dark Black, the so-called Black folks, controlling the whole thing, including white supremacy and their extraterrestrial bloodline. So you got non-human beings or extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, the humans with whom they made it, who are human hybrids, and the humans that they put in power, according to my understanding and overstanding. So they put the Caucasians in certain position, or our European brothers and sisters. And please, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just telling you what I've come to understand and overstand through my studies and through my conversations with people who have classified information. And this classified information is going to come out when Trump, who will be the last president of the corporation, or the last president as we know it, when he comes back, a lot of this information is going to come out. But he will be the last president. Why? Because that time of the so-called white supremacy or enslavement of human beings and these hybrid extraterrestrials and hybrids running the planet is over, and the land will be returned back to the original people. So now, earlier I said my ancestors owned the land. I shouldn't say that, because the land doesn't belong to you. You belong to the land is what one of our ancient sayings is. So we didn't necessarily control the land, but we were inhabitants of the land. All that is coming back to the people. So when they say the republic is being restored, the republic of the Moroccan Empire will be restored. The constitution of the Moroccan Empire will be restored. And that will include everybody that's here that is in agreement to live in peace, harmony, love, freedom, truth, and justice. Okay, so Trump will be the last president, and then everything has to be returned back to the original people here. One of the reasons why the Russians didn't want to do business with the United States Incorporated is because they didn't recognize them as the Moroccan Empire, the original people who inhabited this land and actually ran the government. Kim Jong-un from North Korea didn't want to do business with the United States Incorporated. That's why they used Dennis Rodman, an Aboriginal copper-colored man, to go and make an agreement with Kim Jong-un to say, hey, things are all right now. Trump is now in power. He's the one that's going to bring the original dynasty back. So it's cool. You know, we're gonna work this out because, you know, they might have put Caucasians in power and made you think that they were the ones that was enslaving the planet, but it was not. It was people who look like me, Aboriginal people. Allegedly, this is what I'm studying. I told you, look up the Orsini's and the Medicis and how they were tied to Haile Selassie, whom I'm hearing was the prince of the world. People, even the Queen of Elizabeth, bowed down to his feet. Weird. But yeah, allegedly their bloodline is running everything. So they created the system of white supremacy to try to trick us all into hating each other and fighting against each other. And they told us, oh, the white man enslaved you. Oh, the white man did so many bad things to you, which they may have been used to do certain things, but they didn't tell you that they also used people who look like me to do it, right? And then they told the Europeans, all of your ancestors were slave masters. And then they told us, all of you all were slaves, so they can have us fighting against each other, so we can be divided and hate each other and would not pay attention to who's really running things. It was a brilliant plot. So one of the things that Rod Hayes, Chief Pontiac, told us, and I did, you know, look into that somewhat, is that when the entertainers would come on marching and dancing and, you know, acting, you know, I don't know what they shucking and jiving with blackface. It looked like they were mocking black people, or the Aboriginal copper-colored people found here by Christopher Columbus, also known as African American. But in reality, they were sending coded messages. They painted themselves in blackface to say, it ain't us that's in control. These are the Europeans. Remember, they were shucking and jiving and just, you know, dancing around in Hollywood. And we're saying there are black beings, dark beings that are pulling the puppet strings. We're not in control. It's the black nobility. It's the dark beings, some of them being more or humans, but also extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings that are literally dark complected, that's running the whole world. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, any group of people are evil. I'm telling you, they made some brown people gatekeep and some not people that lack or have less melanin control things and gatekeep. As I said earlier today, it was a brilliant plan, because what they had intended to do was to kill us out through genocide as much as they could, and through abortion clinics and through putting guns and drugs in our community, and then completely suppress us or kill us out. And then they were coming after the Europeans that they brought over here, our Caucasian brothers and sisters. And you can see it playing out, right? Remember, drugs was an epidemic only in the Black community at first. Guns and violence was an epidemic in the Black community. Depopulation programs like certain birth control pills, which was harming us, and taking our placenta and doing things. Abortion clinics were in our community, right? It was a travesty for our community, and it was an epidemic only in our community for the most part. Then it spread to the other communities, middle class, upper middle class communities. And that's when it became a serious epidemic, because now it's affecting everybody, or everybody. So they planned to get us out. Then they were going after the European brothers and sisters that they brought over here. And then they were going to go after the immigrants. So the immigrants came over here thinking, yeah, we're going to get all this money, this free money, these food stamps, this housing, welfare, thousands of dollars just to come to America. And then when they activate us, they were planning to like annihilate the remaining of us that are here, which, by the way, if Hillary had won, most of us would be off this planet by now. And that's why she'll likely be the first one to be hanged in front of the White House. Look in front of the White House. You'll see there are gallows there. And that first hanging supposedly will be televised. If that happens, it'll probably be Hillary Clinton. She was supposed to wipe us out. But they had intended to come after us, then go after the Europeans, which they did. And then once these immigrants came over here, which they did, and they got all these benefits, they were going to turn on them too. Because if you think for 1 minute that somebody who's going to war to try to destroy the whole human race is only going to stop at the Aboriginal people or the copper colored people, you're sadly mistaken, because they proved that by going after our European brothers and sisters. And they proved it by going after everybody all over the planet. They were going to go after the immigrants once they came here and made them think that now you got all the power. But they're only doing the bidding for who? This fake system that they call, it's a real system, but they call it white supremacy. White supremacy is all about supremacy of the corporation. So when these dirty Moors came over here and brought their sex slaves, and the people who would work for them came over here, some of them did really just come up here to mind their own business, had their own flag, did their own thing, had their own constitution, their own ways. And then a faction of them usurped authority from the Moors. We had a Moroccan, a whole dynasty here. We had our own sultan, and George Washington paid homage. It is Morocco. So they had intended to enslave us, but what they did is they created a system of white supremacy to control America, the resources, and the whole world. And when they usurped authority from the Aboriginal people here, they overtook our republic, our lawful republic, and they created their own entity called the United States Incorporated, and they incorporated themselves in 1871 in the state of Delaware as a nonprofit religious organization. They have their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated, and they had their own leader who was the Pope. That's why they're a religious nonprofit organization. And they were in cahoots with the Queen, which makes sense now. Now I think about it. She had dealings with Haile Selassie. And if you wanted to participate, if you wanted to succeed, you wanted to move up here in America and all over the world, you had to pledge to what? Greek societies in college, the Black Greek societies, fraternities, sororities, the white Greek societies, the Asian Greek societies. Crazy. And in those Greek societies, although they did a lot of benevolent things, what you hear, because I read a book called Black Haze by one of my colleagues who actually sat on my dissertation committee for my PhD. I don't even know how he was able to tell some of the secrets, but in those Greek societies and some of those secret societies like the Boule, the Masons, I'm not saying all the Masons are bad, but some of the Masonic order and Scarlet Bowls, you would have to participate in sex rituals. You have to do homosexual rituals. Some of them had to do things involving with children. Some of them had to get rid of their own bloodline. That's why Hollywood been telling us that they had to sacrifice their own family members in order to make it high up in the ranks and make millions, multi-millions of dollars. The same in every segment of society. Higher education. I have a PhD in higher education, but I only went to a certain level, like academic counselor and director of project director. And when I kept trying to move up, they wouldn't allow me to move up, even though our vice president of student affairs was a so-called Black man. When I went to him and asked him for a job, when they realized that I had not pledged with the Black Greek Society, I didn't even know. I wasn't understanding why he wouldn't hire me when I was at the top, graduated from the top of my class with a PhD, and in my dissertation, I graduated, with honors in my dissertation, many parts of my dissertation, high honors. Dissertation is the research that you have to do in order to graduate completely from your doctoral program. And I'm the only so-called Black female expert in the area of retention, college retention, particularly of Black males, the only female expert, and they wouldn't hire me. And so I had to talk to some of my friends who made it beyond me, and they couldn't tell me everything, but they said, baby, Just be grateful. They're not going to let you make it. You didn't pledge. Don't worry. And like I had a brother who had pledged, and he was like, and he was doing very well financially. He said, you know what? Don't worry about it, because you don't need to be a part of somebody else's society. They need to get on board with you. You need to have your own society. You don't need to pledge. But what I found out was, even in higher education, in medicine, in politics, in education, in religion, if you want to make a certain amount of money in Hollywood, reach a certain level in law, you must pledge. Now, maybe there are some people that made it and didn't pledge, but for the most part, you had to pledge to a secret society. And that leads me to why a lot of people that look like me and otherwise are on the bandwagon with Kamala Harris. It came to me. I've been praying about this, and I've been fasting like, God, what is going on? And it came to me in the middle of just prayer that the reason why some of these professionals, whether they Black or otherwise, are on board with Kamala Harris and the liberals, even though they have openly locked up Aboriginal, copper-colored Black men for life for petty crimes. Because I lived in California for some time, and Kamala Harris was in Congress, I think it was Congress in Oakland. She was known for locking up Black men for petty crimes, for misdemeanors, for many years, and sometimes for life. How can you support her? Well, a lot of professionals that are supporting her, this is what came to me, are doing so because they not only pledged to these secret societies, but they participated in these rituals like her, and some of them with her, and some of them with Diddy. Because if you think these people that are in law, politics, education, medicine, et cetera, don't know who Diddy is, I'm telling you, and don't know some of these people in Hollywood, yes, they do. That's why they smiling with them greasy smiles and shaking hands with them. And it looks like, oh, they just happen to know these Hollywood elite folks. No, they're part of the same secret societies. And many of them participated in sex rituals. Many of them have been at Diddy parties. Many of them have been at Diddy-like parties. Kamala Harris is their sister. It's coded. She's an AKA. She's a Black Greek fraternity member, a sorority member, allegedly. So a lot of them that's in power now, they keep pushing Harris, the Democratic Party, the liberals, even though they push genocide in our community through abortion. How can you be a woman that will killing your own seed? Like we have bought into their paragraph. I'm not trying to be harsh on anybody, but we've bought into their rhetoric for so long. We don't realize how sick we are. We'll kill our own children, our own seed. And this woman is now believing in full term. First it was like third and fourth trimester abortion. Now it's full term abortion, and they're saying vote for Kamala Harris. Why? Because they're in the same sororities and fraternities, the same secret societies. And that's what came to me. And you know what? A lot of us are going to wake up and be completely shocked when the pastors are locked up, when lawyers are locked up, when judges are locked up, when teachers, coaches, when they all start missing, just like Hollywood is all gone. And some of these athletes are all gone. People that we know and have come to love, they're about to leave here too, because a lot of them participated in pornography, child pornography, and ritualistic abuse of women, children, and men. They're going to be out of here too. And it's going to be very daunting. It's going to be very sad, because a lot of people we know and love participated in these rituals. So you had this whole division of the races here in America and all over the planet, and the suppression of Black people in America, more so, or just to me, at the worst. At least, but I don't know. I'm sure everybody in history has been enslaved. But in recent history, you've seen it a lot, because this is the promised land. America's the promised land. And then they put Black leaders in place, like the Jamaican leader. I couldn't think of his name. What was that man's name? That the Back to Africa movement. What was that man's name? I wrote his name down, but I can't find it. Marcus Garvey. Oh, go back to Africa. Well, I'm not going back to Africa because I didn't come from Africa. I'm from America, the Americas. I have, on my mother's side, my great-grandfather came from South America. He came from Colombia. And then he married, when he came here, he married a woman from the Blackfoot tribe. So we're from the Americas. And my father's side, it's well known that they're Cherokee. My grandfather and my father look straight like Cherokee because that's who they are. And when I looked into the bloodline, my son hired somebody to look into it. They were all landowners, every last one of them. My great grandfather was a political refugee from South America. None of them were slaves. But Marcus Garvey and some of these other leaders that they put in front of us with this Black conscious movement, the Pan-African movement, the Back to Africa movement, it was all a plot to get the Aboriginal, indigenous, copper-colored people here that look like me, my relatives, away from the land to go to Africa. That's not where I'm from. I ain't going nowhere. Now, if I wanted to go there willingly, great. But you're not going to go to Africa and just be given land. That was a lie. Not even in Ghana. We went to Ghana. When they were saying come back home, they weren't talking to you in America. And I know some people that's been there for decades, never got citizenship. They're starting to lighten things up now, but you weren't given land. That was a lie. They were going after or seeking their own people, the other Ghanaians, the other Africans who had spread out to America and Europe, and saying to them, come back home and we'll give you land. I know that because I was there. I went to the meetings. A couple of years ago, my son went to that the meetings when they were doing that whole come back to Africa movement. Will give you land. So I was there for some time. I went to the meetings, but my son was there a couple of years ago when it was a big call to the diaspora. They wasn't talking about us, and they let him know we wasn't talking about you. We're talking about our own people who went to the Americas and to Europe. And I'm not mad at them. Take care of your own people first that's from that land. But here in America, they didn't take care of us. They suppressed us. They tried to kill us out through genocide, abortion, which is genocide, through Margaret Sanger and the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, who were controlled by and manipulated by the Black nobility, and who were controlled and manipulated by the Medici, allegedly Medici, and what did I say, Orsini? And my people are saying, my friends are like, but those are Italian names. And I'm like, who do you think the original Italians were? They were dark. The Sicilians know that. Sicilians are the Italians at the bottom of the boot in Italy. So a lot of the Sicilians came here and participated in the underground economy because when they were brought here, and a lot of Italians were brought here, they were treated so-called Niggers. They were the first ninjas. The Irish, they were the first ninjas. They weren't called white. The beings that created white supremacy expanded the classification to include the Italians and to include the Irish in order to expand their numbers so they could further their agenda to complete the process of annihilating the Aboriginal copper-colored people here. But all that's about to be reversed. Which brings me to the Native Americans that are here. And of course, we intermarried. A lot of us are all one now. We all mated and married. We ain't gonna let nobody divide us because love conquers all. We made babies with each other. But the Native Americans who are here live on reservations. All praises to the Most High, who allowed the Moors, and particularly one of my Moorish brothers, to explain this to me. They have reservations. They live on the reservations because they are reserving the land for us. So when the dynasty switches back over to the Moroccan Empire, remember, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's been usurped, but our republic was running alongside of the United States Incorporated, the fake government, and our Constitution, which we created, my ancestors created. People will tell you was styled after the Iroquois because the Iroquois created in some of our indigenous tribes. The two were running side by side. But everything's gotta return back to the original people, because that's just right. But not just the original people, but the original people and all the peoples that are in alliance with us that live here in America. So we're like I said, we're not going to, nobody's going to X anybody out. We're about truth, freedom, love, justice, peace. And I think there's another one: truth, justice, freedom, peace, love. Anybody that's vibrating on those frequencies, we're going to all get along. But my nationality is American. I'm not Black. I'm not African American. I'm not a Negro. I'm not colored. Well, I might look colored, but my nationality, I'm American. Or some people will say I'm a Moor. My people, my clan is Cherokee, Blackfoot, otherwise. And so are many of you, regardless of the tone of your complexion. But a lot of people who are in power or in key positions, a lot of them have been arrested, and they've been given until, I think they said 7 days after the 17th they were given, which would have been the 24th of October, to stand down. And then the ones up and higher up in power, and then the lesser ones were given until December 1st to stand down, or else they're going to be arrested. And you're going to have civilian arrests also of these people that were in power, regardless of your skin complexion. So a lot of people who are brown, who are part of the Boule and some of the secret societies, because the Boule, my understanding, selects from the Black Greek fraternity. Those are the Black ones, and the Masons select from them as well, from what I've read and heard. But they are gatekeepers. They turn on their own people. They do things to keep us blind. They lie to us. They participate in what looks like social justice, and but they're really part of like Black Lives Matter. All of them were funded by Soros. A lot of these pastors are funded by Soros and funded by the corporation, which, by the way, they'll tell you that there's a separation of church and state, but there isn't. And if there was a separation of church and state, when COVID hit and they told the churches to stand down, the churches should have stood up and said, no, there's a separation of church and state. We're not closing down our doors, but they didn't. Now, there was a Caucasian brother here in Tampa. Well, I'm not in Tampa, but in Tampa, Florida, who kept his doors open. They locked him up. But everybody else just about closed their doors because there's no separation of church and state. A lot of these pastors, not all of them, who would tell you that ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do, surely close them doors. They try to act like they're big and bad and they bigger than the government, but they close them doors because when you have a 501c3, you're gonna do what Master tells you to do. You're gonna close up them doors. Pastors try to act like they big and bad and say, if you don't come to church, you going to hell. But when Massa told them to close them doors, they told you to stay your tail at home, didn't they? Because that's Massa, the government, the corporation, which, by the way, is now insolvent, defunct, bankrupt, along with the Treasury Department. Thank you. Gary says, much love and keep the good fight. I love you. Thank you so much, brother, for the $50 blessing. I guess you call it a super chat. I love you. Thank you so much. These churches close their doors. These churches have a 501c3. They have to do what the government says. They're run and controlled by the government. Now, they get tax breaks, but they still get audited like everybody else. But a lot of them took that money, and unfortunately, when they baptized you and told you you're being dead, it's a spiritual death, killing out the old man, they signed up. I just learned this from Chief Mack. They signed a baptism certificate, which the certificate is then monetized, or how they call it, what they call monetized, securitized, something like that, and then traded on the New York Stock Exchange, just like the birth certificate. Why you want to go back? Why you want to go back to the water when you came from the water? You was birthed from the water through the birthing canal. Are we really supposed to be baptized? I don't know. I'm not trying to step on any toes because I was baptized, but it's just, you know, it's just a little uncomfortable. The term Africa referred to a region of the continent. Al-Qaeda land was the original land given to the continent, yes, by the indigenous people. Actually, they'll tell you Africa came from some man's name, Africanus or something like that. The original name for that continent was Al-Qaeda. I know that from my people who are there and some of my brothers here who teach about the African diaspora and the continent. Shout out to my friend Adisa, Professor Adisa Akebulan, my college friend who taught me a lot about Africa, the Pan-African movement, etc. Now, I don't have anything against Africans. I love them. I think we're cousins. We might be related, but we did not come from that continent on slave ships. No, ma'am. No, sir. The word America and all of its derivatives are ancient words for Turtle Island. Thank you, Gary. It was never called Africa. Thank you so much. The Tower of Babel was located at Louis Babel Ecological Reserve in Quebec, Canada. Tower of Babel was in Canada. Wow. Thank you. Gosh, you guys are sharing so much. So what else did I want to say? A lot of people supporting Harris are doing so because they were all at them Diddy parties and because they're part of secret societies, which were created to protect Skull and Bones and to protect the king, which is white supremacy, which has nothing to do with European people in power, but everything to do with Baal worship, ritualistic abuse of children, and the corporation who created other corporations, which are dead entities, to enslave the planet. But all of the corporations and all the federal agencies all over the world, and particularly here in America, were ruled by the Supreme Court of the United States as being unconstitutional, unlawful, and treasonous. So all of the federal agencies, all the three-letter agencies, all the federal agencies, I don't care if it's the FBI, CIA, all of them, IRS, all of them, 469 of them, I think I came up with, I found the list of, ruled as treasonous because they created laws and forced us all to follow them. And these laws were against our freedoms, like even having a driver's license in order to travel, a driving permit. You're not supposed to have to do that to travel because we're not operating in commerce. You have a license because you're operating in commerce. Well, most of us are just traveling. So forcing us to get a driver's license and insurance, and the only way you can get your driver's license and update your plates is if you get insurance, all that foolishness was created to enslave us and siphon money from us. Ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of the United States this summer. All 469 HOAs, all of them, because what they started doing was telling people you can't grow your own food. Crazy, unconstitutional. So all of them have to be taken down. It's over for the deep state. Kamala Harris, or Kamala, whatever her name is, they're saying that, you know, some people, I was told years ago, her name is Kamal Arush and that she's allegedly not female. We know she's not American. We know she's not constitutionally able to serve as president because in order to serve as president, you have to have allegiance to this country, America, and you have to be natural born, meaning you have to come from America. She may have been native born if it's true that she was born in Oakland, California, which is questionable. That's native born because her bloodline, her people are from somewhere else. She's not natural born. So you have to be native born and subject to the jurisdiction of that state. So it's about not just proximity, but about allegiance. That's what the forefathers wrote in place for you to qualify for in order to serve as president. So she doesn't qualify. And if you want to fact check me, look up John Eastman. He's a constitutional law expert. He said the exact same thing. He backs me up, supports my claim. Kamala Harris cannot serve as president, vice president. They're only allowed this to keep going until she's taken down. So we may or may not have an election. We only have 5 days to go, but you know, with the blowing up of the ballot boxes. I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of the ballot boxes being blown up and these states cheating. And I think it was CNN that came out with the report that they accidentally leaked that Pittsburgh won, that Kamala Harris won in Pittsburgh. They're doing all type of nefarious things to try to steal the vote, which is why they could cancel elections. Another reason they could cancel the elections is because it's coming out, and I told you before it came out, it's going to come out that Harris had some dealings with Diddy and participated in those parties. Well, then it came out, I didn't know this, that she allegedly had some type of relationship with him. Well, my daughter showed me this video of Diddy, who was actually sitting somewhere with his son, calling out names of entertainers and politicians who were involved in his parties. And these freak off parties weren't just about orgies, it was about ritualistic abuse of children. Pornography is about abuse of children and sex trafficking. Modeling, top models, Victoria's Secret models, those models, modeling is a gateway to the sex industry. Pornography is sex, slave, traffic women, men, and children. Stop watching it if you're doing it. Fast from it. Ask God to deliver you from it. It's not healthy anyway. And we don't want to perpetuate the ritualistic abuse of women, children, and enslavement or trafficking of women, children, and men. We don't want to do that. So this whole Back to Africa movement was to get us off our land. I mean, if you want to control the land and take over the resources, you got to lie to the people that are from that land, get them off that land, have a whole bunch of new people on the land, then take over them. They don't know where to hide. They don't really have any true allegiance to the land. Their bloodline's not from here. Then you can control all of the country and countries all over the world. But these interdimensional beings, they are in the mountains, they're underground in the deep underground tunnels, they are everywhere. They're in the woods. That's why people go missing. So when you have the military doing things like blowing up underground tunnels and the deep underground military bases, cleaning out these woods and forests, they will probably tell you to stay in the house, which is what they did during COVID, the pandemic. They had to get us, they don't want you in the street while they're doing this. And you know what? During the pandemic, when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, I literally heard bombs go off. I was like, what the heck is that? And we literally felt the ground shake. And I was like, they're blowing up deep underground bases. Because it's well known in Louisville, Kentucky, that they have underground tunnels that stretch from, it's interesting, from the Brown Theater all the way through to the Churchill Downs, where the Kentucky Derby is held. And we have a lot of mountains and caves and all this stuff in Kentucky, which is the transportation hub of the world. So you got a lot of ritualistic stuff going on there, which is what the horse race is about. If you think billionaires and millionaires come from all over the world just to watch a 2-minute horse race and spend all millions of dollars in Kentucky for a 2-minute horse race, then you don't know that they're probably doing some nefarious things in that place. But it's interesting that the deep underground the deep underground tunnels lead from the Brown Theater. Who rules California? The Browns, the Newmans, the Pelosi's, and the Gettys. The Browns. Wow, probably same family. So even what happens at the Kentucky Derby, it's a ritual. Pay attention to who they allow to win in all of in entertainment and these athletic agencies, the NBA, the NBA, the NFL, hockey, Kentucky Derby, horse racing. It's all coded. And why do they speak to each other in codes? Because they're dead entities, they're corporations. So that is their language. So they're talking to each other about their plans, what they're going to do, what they did, and what they're currently doing. And we're just going along, thinking it's just some entertainment, laughing and kiki and caca, eating popcorn, watching it, not realizing that rituals are playing out right in front of our faces. So the whole Back to Africa movement, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the whole social justice warrior movement, where they masquerading like they care about Black men, it's all a lie. They didn't care nothing about our men, anything about our men. In fact, Black Lives Matter told you in their mission statement that they were against the nuclear family. It was a lie. They support abortion. They tell women to annihilate your own children. And that's reproductive rights. And then they'll spread this rhetoric. Well, you know, you got to be concerned about those who are raped and abused. They have to, you know, have the option to annihilate their children. And here's the thing. If that's what you choose, like I'm not one to say that you shouldn't do that, but it's less than 1% that does that. And the woman in Roe versus Wade, who they propagated as supporting and being the face of abortion, her name was not Roe. Okay, that was a moniker, it was a fake name. I forgot her real name, but I've done a report on that before. And Wade was the name of one of the I think it was one of the prosecutors or something like that. What she did, this woman who became known as Roe, she lied and said a group of Black men raped her, and so she needed to have an abortion. And then once they used that lie to spread this whole rumor that you have to abort your child because, you know, of rape, and then use reproduction rights as their whole mantra for doing this, she came out later and said, I lied. She said, I lied. I was never raped I was never raped at all. I was never raped by Black men. She said the liberals used me. She came out and said it. Used me to perpetuate that lie to cause women to kill their own babies. That's why they have women around here saying you got to be careful because, you know, if you are raped, sexually assaulted, you need to be able to annihilate the child. Less than 1% that happens to. Most of the women, research it, statistics bear me out, participate in abortion because they're not being responsible for and over their bodies and their wombs. So if you don't want to make a child, don't have sex. That's the old school way. They got all kind of birth control now, but the old school way was close your legs, have respect for your body and your womb. Then you won't pop up pregnant and won't be coerced, guilted, because some of them are guilted by the men, or forced into annihilating your own child. We have to start taking onus and responsibility for what we do with our bodies and stop leaving that up to the government. But you know what? When the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, they told you no federal government has the right to tell women what they can and cannot do with their bodies. It's up to the state. So if you want certain laws to be passed or not passed, then you have to participate at the state level. I believe that was number 4 on the ballot here in Jacksonville, Florida. Some people said vote no, some people said vote yes. We have control. Or why do you have control of what happens in your state? Because each state is its own country, which is why each state has its own lawmakers, and they have their own flag, they have their own rule, their own symbol for their mascot or whatever you call it. Each state in America is a country, and this is a continent. So all the Supreme Court said was the federal government should not tell you what to do with your bodies. Y'all want to do that? Then y'all can vote for it in your state or go to a state that allows it. But at some point, we're going to have to wake up. Let me talk to the women for a minute. Women, we're going to have to wake up and stop allowing ourselves to be puppets for the government or the corporation. We have to stand up and not allow them to tell us that we should annihilate our children. I don't understand how we don't remember that Margaret Sanger was a Rothschild, a part of the bloodline family, and that the whole abortion thing was a genocidal plan. How did we forget that? How do we not know that Roe's real name is not Roe? How do we not know that she lied and said Black men raped her, so she has to have an abortion? How do we not know that? So Roe versus Wade, what is that? That's about admiralty law, the law of the water. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children. It's all coded. The Alabama Brawl was about the Moors being docked on the land. Well, no, was it the Moors? No. Shipman being docked on the land. His name was literally Shipman, which was, may or may not have been real. Docked on the land. A Moorish man, a brown man, came and told him to move. He was the, what you call it? Was he the captain of the ship? I don't know. Is that what you call them? He got off this ship, told them to move, the shipman to move his boat that was docked in the water, by the land, all coded messages. He sent the smoke signal by taking his cap, throwing it up in the air. It was all theatrical, which then alerted the Moors, who were black people who were mooring in the water to see what was going on. So the black man who was the captain, or co-captain, which, by the way, no captain is going to come off the ship and tell you to undock, to undock your ship and move so the Moors can come over here. Not a captain. He would send his minions over to do that. But the co-captain came, who was probably some type of Masonic guy, it was all ritual, threw up his cap. Then a fight ensued with the Moorish brother or the black brother against Caucasians over the boat or the ship that was docked on the land in the water. When he threw up the cap, they started fighting. Then the Moors came mooring, the black people many people said they were the Qs, another black secret society. Some of them had no idea what was happening. They just saw a black man fighting. But some of them did. The ones higher up, they knew what was going on. They moored the shore. They even told you this in the media. Oh, they moored from the boats to shore to help the co-captain fight. They jumped out of the water, and those guys that were jumping into the water, they looked like teenagers. Those were some professional swimmers. If you think these people just happen to be there on the boats and, happen to be filmed, and then they started fighting, and it was like a WWE or WWF, whatever, Worldwide Federation style fighting, with hitting each other with chairs and all. Theatrics. The whole thing was about admiralty law, maritime law, the ship being docked on the land by a Caucasian or European, Moore saying you have to leave. We're going to moor from the shore back to the land, and we're going to restore the country from admiralty law to the law of the land, constitutional law. And it just so happened that the Alabama Brawl, and that terminology was something that the mainstream media seeded into our consciousness. Nobody goes around talking about there was a brawl. Some people from different necks of the woods, but overall, it happened in Montgomery, Alabama, which has a high concentration of melanated people, or so-called copper-colored people, or black people. And it just so happened to occur the day after President Trump was giving a speech at the Republican convention in Montgomery, Alabama. And the brawl happened right across the street from the convention from which he was speaking. All coded messages, all codes for letting us know that the land is being returned back to the original people. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when you look at the numerology, you're going to see the number 41 comes up, which one of my Moorish brothers told me that's king. But I think he said 41 is, did he say 41 is king? I think he said 41 is king. So when you look at numerology and you see certain letters that are being highlighted there in certain productions, and you see certain people winning this football, in the NFL, you'll see that right now they're allowing, like they allowed the Eagles to lose to the 49ers. The eagle represents the Roman Empire. That's the symbol of the Roman Empire, or the corporation of the United States, or the United States Incorporated. The Eagles had to be defeated. The Chiefs won because the land is being returned back to the Chiefs, the people on the land, we the people. They lost against the 49ers. The 49ers represent those who stole the gold from the original people and created Silicon Valley. The most recent Monday Night Football was, I forgot who it was. The Pirates fighting against the Baltimores or Baltic Moors, battling in the I think it was the NFL. But when my friend said, "Oh, you know who's playing? The Baltimore Ravens is playing against," I can't remember the team, but their symbol is pirates. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, we all know the Baltimore Ravens are going to win because the Raven represents wisdom. It represents intelligence. It's a bird of freedom, and it's attached to the Baltimores, the Moors, the Baltic Moors, The Moors on the land are going to win against the pirates, because pirating, which means you're stealing from a person's culture or stealing from a person's treasure. You're stealing from a person, of course, unlawfully, and masquerading as if it was yours, just like the people that came over here and masqueraded like they were the Aboriginal people here and stole our identity, stole our land, stole our culture, stole our secret or sacred teachings that they then turned into nefarious, making it evil. No more pirating. That's why they lost. So it's just symbology playing out. They're letting us know what's happening. So I think that's about it. I just wanted to let you all know what was on my mind. This is part 2 of They Lied to Us. The truth will come out about how humans were created, where we all came from, why and how they created different factions of us. What else? Hopefully they'll talk about the time period when we had a matriarchy, what that meant, what it looked like, what the matrilineal societies look like, because I study anthropology in my social science degree. So my undergrad degree was social sciences, which is anthropology, psychology, sociology, political science, and economics. I created my own program and I studied from all those different disciplines and put it under one umbrella called social sciences. Thank goodness my the person who was over my program allowed me to do that. So in anthropology, you got to actually study different cultures, different artifacts. And so I got to study and learn about matrilineal and matriarchal societies, which, by the way, did exist. So patriarchy was not the original way, or it's not the oldest way. Matriarchy is. But I'll be glad when we stop fighting about matriarchy is better, patriarchy is better, because all they're doing is causing division between the two sexes, the genders. But in matriarchal societies, we had feminine expressions of God as well as masculine expressions of God. But when the Aryans came out of the Caucasus Mountains, and I'm starting to think these Aryans that came out of Caucasus Mountains were not human, or either they were human hybrids. They might have been the Nephilim. But when they came out of Caucasus Mountains, they decimated the feminine expressions of God, the female idols or replicas or expressions of God. I don't even think they were idols. And the whole veneration of women was decimated and done away with. And I think that's why a lot of women project a lot of masculinity and masculine energy. We don't have female expression of God. We're only told about what some people said is Enlil. I don't know if it's Enki or Enlil, but the religion that was created from one of those beings that came here that made everybody worship them is a male, because according to Sumerian texts, Enki and Enlil came here and seeded the conventional or the current humans that we have now. Well, they'll tell you about Enki and Enlil, but most people won't even talk about Ninhursag, or who other people call Nimna, who was their sister. She was here with a female that was here that helped to allegedly create humans and implanted the first ones in her womb. It's like they want to decimate the female principles of everything, just like they took away all the feminine trees and only plant male trees. And this is why you have a high pollen count in the air, and why a lot of people are sick with asthma and allergies, because you got all these trees pollinating, and pollen just going everywhere, but it's not implanting or being seeded or connected with feminine trees because they took them out. which I heard, they got these beings that came out of Caucasus Mountains or wherever they came from. These non-human entities they hated women. So they decimated the feminine expression of God. They did away with the veneration and the love and reverence of women because they hated women. They killed a lot of them, raped a lot of them, sexually assaulted a lot of them, and put them in isolated islands so that they could fend for themselves, which how you came up with the Isle of Lesbos, from which the name lesbian came. So when you do that and you get rid of the feminine expression of God, then women aren't taught or can't connect with the loving aspect of a woman, of mama, of the creatress, or the feminine side of the creator. She can't connect with the loving, nurturing, feminine, sweet, kind side because it's not taught. The God that most people are taught is a God of war, which we need, especially when you're talking about fighting these extra entities. So I'm glad we created, gave birth to men, because they had to fight against these beings that came down here and were harming us. I would encourage you to look up Credo Mutwa, who was a South African shaman that talked about how the original beings, or one of the first beings, were actually female or androgynous. And when it was determined that we needed to create males to protect us, then they actually put us through some type of time capsule or portal, and the feminine entity or human went through this portal, and then when they went through it, you came out as feminine, you went on this side. If you came out man with a penis, then you went on that side as the male. And that's how they created the two sexes according to Credo Mutwa. But we know that you have entities that are tampering with our DNA. They shorten our lifespan, they tamper with our DNA, they created the two sexes. But when a woman has an embryo in her body, it starts out as female. And then over time, if it's going to be a male, the ovaries will drop and become testicles, and the clitoris will elongate and become a penis. We're all really one. But I'm saying, they need to start talking about matriarchy and what that looked like, and teach about the feminine expression of God, so women can have some type of connectivity to the creator and creatress. Otherwise, she's going to, under the current system, which is not necessarily patriarchy, but it's really demonic entities ruling the world under the guise of patriarchy, because patriarchy is about protecting the family, and matriarchy was of nurturing. And they under matriarchy and the matrilineal bloodlines, they passed down the wealth and the property to the children through the woman. And that's why back in the day under matriarchy, it didn't matter who the woman had children by. She had children by many different men. People try to make it seem like women don't like variety. That's not true, else it wouldn't be happening. Now we need to control that because it's causing chaos. But I'm saying, when a woman had children, Chief Mac, when a woman had children, the inheritance, HER, was passed down through the mother to her children. But then the system of marriage as we know it was created or agreed upon to protect the woman, yes, but also when these beings came out of the mountains and they decimated the matrilineal matriarchal societies, which, by the way, was egalitarian. The man and woman was treated as equal. What I mean by that, we respected each other's roles. It was just that inheritance was passed through the woman and to all her children. But then when they came out and decimated the matriarchal societies and created or put in place, the patriarchy as we know it, then the men married the women in order to control her land and control her resources and control her inheritance. And when you put the man over her inheritance, then he has to quote, end quote, control her womb, because a man will only provide for and protect what he can control. That's natural. Men protect and provide for what's theirs. So when you have marriage, then the way it it initially started was you can make sure or ensure that she's only having children by this one man, and this man protects and provides for those children, which makes sense. And then the inheritance is passed through his bloodline. He doesn't want to pass down any inheritance to any other man's seed to this day. But a woman, you know, she's going to pass. It doesn't matter what they say, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Doesn't matter who the children are by. She's going to give it to all her children. So some people say that when we turn things back around to the original way here in America, maybe and over in the world, you're going to see some matriarchal characteristics come back. You know, the mayor was woman. Some of the lawmakers will be female. Some of the judges will be female, and the men will be the enforcers, just like it used to be. The men would do the grunt work. So I'm not here to argue about which is better. I know how to live under a patriarchal system and in a matriarchal system. I know how to love and support men. I know how to inspire men, because women inspire men. Men are inspired through and by beauty and femininity. A man will provide and protect a woman who respects him and his role as a man, who loves him, and who knows how to operate in her role. And what I mean, her using her superpower as being a feminine, beautiful, sweet, pleasant, kind person. That men are inspired by women to protect and provide, to conquer, to rule the world, to do whatever. So I know how to operate in that system. I know how to thrive underneath that system. So whatever system we have, I know how to move. Sometimes you just have to be malleable. You have to learn how to, you know, be like water, be liquid, be fluid. So they're trying to propagate Kamala Harris and make her look like she's a black woman to get a certain vote. But women that look like me are, many of us are rejecting her. You know, a lot of people who are in power they switch the roles. Many of them are hermaphrodites, or they are actually, hermaphrodites mean you have both sexes, or they're actually transformers. Somebody said, oh, okay. So I'm so glad you guys are talking to each other. We have 198 people in the chat. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, to the Dr. Kia Pruitt channel. My name here on this channel is called Dr. Kia Pruitt Official, because they've gotten rid of all my other channels. So I had a channel years ago when Donald Trump was at the forefront as the president, and I had tens of thousands of followers. YouTube took away that channel. First they would take videos off, then they took away that channel and I started another one. They took away that channel, I started another one. Took away that channel, started another one. A fourth one. They took away that when I started a fifth one. They took away that when I started a sixth one. They took away that when I started a seventh one. They demonetized my platforms. They stole the money that I was supposed to be paid, which was tens of thousands of dollars. But we're still here. We still have life and breath in our body. We're going to keep telling the truth until the Most High, the Creator, or my ancestors tell me to stop. I see people from North Carolina, Alabama checking in. No more fighting with each other, absolutely, or against each other. We are one. That is one of the universal principles that guide the universe. Some people say there are 12, some people say there are 24. One of them is the law of oneness, that we all come from source. Source is in us. We come from source, whether you're human, plant, or animal, insect, we're all one. So that's why whatever affects one affects all of us. Whatever affects what happens in America affects the world. Whatever happens on this planet affects the galaxies. And that's why many of them have returned. Our ancestors have returned. Interdimensional beings have returned. A future version of you has returned. The future version of you is inspiring you to fight the good fight. Your ancestors have returned. Extraterrestrial beings have returned, because all of the bloodshed that was going on here on this planet and other planets through all these interdimensional wars and this fighting and all that bloodletting, ritualistic abuse of men, women, and children, it affected the multiverse. So they had to return to stop this foolishness. Hello, Kashmir says I just joined. Before there was America, there was Africa. It must call another name before the Europeans came. This was North Africa. Oh, Doris Day said this was called North Africa. I've heard that, or the North Gate, or Northwest Africa. It's called America or Amorica, and or Turtle Island. Morocco is here. Egypt is here. The Jews are from here, which I've kept the Jewish culture, Jewish holy days. I've observed the diet since I was a child. Somebody says you were a threat because they had nothing to hold over your head. Thank you, Mike P. Nothing to hold over my head. So, they took away my channels, took away my money. But God still sustained me, and you all blessed me by sending me gifts. So thank you, like you did here, and like you did through Cash App. So thank you. And my Cash App, by the way, is $ Mama Kia 13, $ MAMAKIA 13. And I just worked whatever job I could, but in order to move up in higher education, since I didn't pledge, and I'm not doing any of that. I'm just not. I'm not. You're not gonna hit me in my face. I'm not gonna let no train run through me. I'm not having sex with all the fraternity brothers. I'm not doing all this. I'm not drinking gallons of water. I'm not swimming across no ocean. All these rituals that they would make people do in order to pledge, be a part of Black Greek fraternities, white Greek fraternities, secret societies, Masonic rituals, boule. I'm not doing all that. Skull and Bones, I'm not participating. No, I'm not a part of Illuminati. Nope. None of that. I will not. So you don't control me. You might say you're not going to make it, but so far, okay. The scripture says, what will a man give in exchange for his soul? I'm not giving money in exchange for my soul. But those of you who didn't sell out, and even if you sold out and you repented, that just means to turn away from, make amends. You're going to be okay. As long as you're not like doing bad things to children and, participating in some of these things. Sometimes some people that's going to repent, they still got to pay, they got to reap what they sowed. But for those of you who have an opportunity, repent, turn away from those ways. Thank you, Linda, for sending me a blessing through Cash App. I appreciate you. Thank God bless you. Repent. Turn away from. Right on, sis. No separation between church and state. As far as church's closings, it was good. No more interruption. I like that. Judah rising, and we know now who we are. Amen. We know the truth. The first human beings at this word is called Bantu. The first human beings. I didn't know that. So you guys are talking to each other. You're talking about the Tower of Babel was located at Louis Babel Ecological Reserve in Quebec, Canada. We read that already. Hi, Colorado. HC444, where are you in Colorado? They ask. I'm reading your comments. Trump is the trumpet in Zion. He is the one that the military chose to take down the deep state, to dismantle the United States Incorporated and all those bloodline families that enslave humanity. The reason why it's taken so long is because you not only have to get rid of the humans that are participated in enslaving humanity, you have to get rid of these interdimensional beings, the beings they created, the test tube babies, I hate to say it like that, the clones, all of that. The beings that they created through mixing the not galactic, extraterrestrial beings with humans and animals, and some of these beings that live in the caves, that live in the woods, that live in the forest, that live in the mountains, that live underground. They had to get rid of all of them that's been controlling the world for centuries. That's why it's taking so long, family. Who is that? Marlene says, thank you, Dr. Kia, for all of your information you bring. You're welcome. It's my great pleasure. And you know what? I'm learning in part. I've researched in part. I appreciate you all adding to the conversation because, I may not have it all right. I may be correct in some areas. This is according to my research, according to what I've discovered, but you are adding to the conversation. I sincerely appreciate that. Somebody says, so happy I'm back. Hi, Right to Right. Thank you. Kentucky won't even allow Trump's name to be selected on a ballot. Are you serious, Sister Valerie F? It automatically defaults to Kamala Harris. Oh my God, I did not know that. So she said it automatically defaulted to Kamala's name when trying to click for Donald Trump. That's crazy. Wow. In Louisville, Kentucky, again, that's the transportation hub of the world. That's where the Kentucky Derby is, the horse races. That's where we have lots of caves and tunnels. And that's where Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Until Freedom, they destroyed my city in Louisville. In fact, I heard that, what percentage? I think I heard that 40% of downtown Louisville was operating now because they destroyed it. It is a hub for the liberals. Thank you, Sister Delia, for sending me a Cash App. I appreciate you. My Cash App family is $ Mama Kia 13, MAMAKIA 13. I appreciate you. God bless you. Heaven smile on you. I am very grateful. I am very honored that you listen. Very honored that we have about 200 people in the chat participating. I didn't let anybody know I was going to go live, but I wanted to share what was on my heart, that they lied to us about everything, that people are still supporting Kamala Harris. And now I see that they're rigging the elections. Thank you for telling us, Sister Valerie, what's going on in Kentucky. They're burning the ballot boxes. They're destroying a lot of the Trump voters, vote. And would not surprise me if they halted the elections and let us know, that the world know what was going on. Now, by the way, they need to announce that the Brunson brothers case against Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, and 385 members of Congress have been decided. So that case, I forgot which number it was, Supreme Court case, but anyway, it was supposed to be decided upon about 2 years ago, but the Supreme Court wouldn't hear it. Then the Brunson brothers decided that, that they had to do something for the Supreme Court not to hear it. It's like, no, we know there was a security breach in our country. We know that TREASON has been committed. And so they found a loophole. And I did, by the way, interview Lloyd Brunson. They're trumpet players. All of this is done intentionally, I believe. Trumpet, Donald Trump being a trumpet in Zion. A trump is blown to announce war, to announce something incredible and amazing, to announce the ushering in of the king. Yeah. Lloyd Brunson, if you look up my Rumble channel, go to Rumble, RUMBLE.com, and then in a search engine, look up Dr. Kia Pruitt, DR period space KIA space PRUIT. See my channel. Thank you, Brother Jonathan, for sending me a Cash App. God bless you. Heaven smile on you is my prayer. I am so grateful for you. May you prosper beyond your imagination, all of you who have blessed me. May God multiply whatever you sent me 1,000-fold. So the trumpet players, the Brunson brothers, and I interviewed Lloyd Brunson. You can see 2 of my interviews with him on my Rumble channel, Dr. Kia Pruitt, on rumble.net.com. Lloyd Brunson said they found a loophole that said that if the country is in danger, and if the Supreme Court has a case on the docket that could potentially prove that there's been a security breach, and that case is not heard by the Supreme Court justices, then the Supreme Court justices can be held for TREASON, because anytime there's a coup d'etat or there's a security breach, or you allowing illegal folks to come over here to, steal the resources, you're giving it to them so they can vote, whatever. Anytime there's a security breach, a potential security breach, or a threat of a coup d'etat, or a coup d'etat even, and the Supreme Court doesn't hear that, they can be held for TREASON. When the Brunson brothers found that loophole, they brought another case up to the docket, and the Supreme Court was supposed to hold a conference and decide upon that. Well, we never heard of what the ruling on that, what it was. But a writ of memorandus was produced and passed that said that Clarence Thomas can single-handedly make a determination on the Brunson brother case. And I did a report on that. I have to find that document for you, because I do have it, the writ of memorandus that said he can make a decision on his own. Then after that came out, I did report on that when that happened. After that came out, then many justices started I can't get this. I hardly get this word right. Recusing themselves. How you say recusing themselves from the case, because they said, I cannot be unbiased. I cannot be unbiased. So many of the justices stepped down and decided they excused themselves from being able to make a decision on that case. And it was interesting that that writ of memorandus came out before they recused themselves of that case. Memorandus said that Clarence Thomas can make that determination on his own. And then after that, CNN reported that he was missing, which just meant that he wasn't showing up to hear on certain cases. And they were saying, well, maybe he's sick. But when I read the outlets, the media reports on that, they were saying, well, if Clarence Thomas was sick, then he should be reporting from home. But he wasn't even reporting from home. And then that's when the rumors came out, at least in the community, a truther community, that he was being protected by the military because he had already made a ruling on the Brunson brothers case that the 2020, what happened in 2020 and in 2022 were indeed overtaken, and there was some stealing of that procedure. Okay, so if in fact the ruling was determined that Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and 385 members of Congress allowed that to happen or participated in that type of fraud in 2020 and 2022, then they have to each have their credentials stripped, and they can never serve again. And they won't serve again because they'll be judged through military tribunals. And many of them already have been judged, which many of them were going to have to step down anyway because they have Esquire behind their name, which is a title of nobility. And according to our Constitution, you may not have a title of nobility and create laws. Because when you have a title of nobility, such as Esquire, when you have a law degree, you pass the bar exam, the British Accredited Registry, which means you have an allegiance to the British Crown and not we the people. And when you have a title of nobility, you're saying you're above the people. So you're not going to serve the people. You're not going to care about the people. You don't create laws for the people. You create laws to enslave the people. And you pay tribute to the Queen, the British Crown. That's why it's a British Accredited Registry or the bar exam. But you know, all that has been overturned because now states are coming out and saying that in order to be a lawyer, not attorney, but a lawyer, you don't have to pass the bar because they're actually ushering in what we call NESARA and GESARA. They're actually ushering back in constitutional law and restoring our republic, which is our lawful government all over the planet. Somebody says Roe was as a transformer. Wow, thank you, Joe. I didn't know that. The case was brought by Jane Roe to a pseudonym. Oh, this is Kwaduo Sekoni, thank you. The case was brought by Jane Roe, a pseudonym for Norma McCorvey. Thank you. I couldn't think of her real name. Against Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, who represented Texas and enforced its laws prohibiting abortion. Okay, that's what the Roe versus Wade was. I'll read that again. The case was brought by Jane Roe, a pseudonym for Norma McCorvey, that was her real name, against Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, who represented Texas and enforced its laws prohibiting abortion. Also, he enforced the laws prohibiting abortion. Roe came against him and challenged him, and it became known as Roe versus Wade. Got it. And that is what they use to promote and push forward the abortion, eugenics, genocide agenda. Thank you. Dr. Kia, we also must teach our children how to direct sexual energy up the spine through genitals to the alchemize that energy, yes, to harmonize the hormones and to nourish the pineal and pituitary glands. Thank you, Gary. I'll read that again, Brother Gary Simmons. Dr. Kia, we also must teach our children how to direct sexual energy up the spine from the genitals to alchemize that energy, to harmonize the hormones and nourish the pineal and pituitary glands. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Some people have something against that type of energy called serpentine energy, kundalini energy, because they're ignorant. They don't understand it. They think it's demonic worship because that's what they've been told, and they don't do their research. Thank you so much for that, Brother Gary. And thank you again, Brenton, for blessing me with a Cash App blessing. No, that's a I think that's a super chat, $20. God bless you. I appreciate you. Having smile on you is my Brenton said, proud to support you, my sister. Hi, Linda from Texas. The swamp was deep. Auntie Kia, is the looking glass real? I believe so. I've heard it is. Trump is sounding the alarm for show and blowing the trumpet. Thank you for saying that, Snooky Bay. Peace light to you, Brother Nathan. Mr. T is playing his trump card. Absolutely. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you mentioned Derwin. Thank you for mentioning them. So in athletics, and with these teams playing against each other, it's all coded. They're rigged. They're actors. They all play their part. And I saw a video actually where some of the athletes were saying what their role was and what they were told to do. That you're going to do this in this inning, and then you're going to do that. You're going to do that. It's all rigged. All of them, allegedly. It's all rigged. And Hollywood is allowed, they would say they were allowed to lie to us. They are a part of the deep state. They have actors who they were masquerading as somebody we should laud and celebrate, hence the term celebrity. And many people call them their idols, which God, or the God of the Bible anyway, said you were not supposed to put any have idols or put any idols above your God or your creator. But they have us going against our own, if you're a Christian, your own beliefs. If you're a Muslim, your own beliefs, that you're not supposed to have idols. They encouraged us to go against our own teaching. Joe and Barbara just joined the live. It's been a while. Hi, Joe Pittman and Barbara. Yes, it's been a while. So that's it, family. I just wanted to encourage you and let you know that we've all been lied to about human existence, human origins, where we come from, whether or not we're a part of extraterrestrial races. We've been lied to about the moon. Some people say the moon was created, and it makes sense. It's a scientific experiment. When you look at DreamWorks, that logo, it has a boy sitting on the moon, crescent moon, fishing for something. Some people say that moon is like a portal that fishes for souls. That's deep. And that when you pass on or you transition through what they call death, they would recycle your soul over and over, erase your memory, recycle you. And that's what the DreamWorks logo is about. So the moon allegedly is an experiment. The moon, and they say, didn't used to be here, and that it rules over and controls the woman. That's why they call us lunatics. The lunar cycles, it controls our menstrual cycle, and it controls a lot of the allegedly, and that's what they say, the psychological aspects of the woman and the emotional aspects of the woman. Why do they hate the feminine so much? Why do they kill the cows and serve them to you? Why do they not plant feminine trees so that the male trees can pollinate correctly, sufficiently? And because they don't plant feminine trees, we're getting sick with asthma and allergies. Why do they have us fighting against our men? Why are they trying to make us masculine instead of allowing us to or leaving us alone so we can just enjoy life and bask in our femininity? You know, of course they're going after men now too. Why are they trying to effeminate the men? Have them dressing in skirts, have them cutting off their penises, having them doing bad things to children and women. We have to stop this infighting. There's no such thing. They made you say that there was such thing called toxic masculinity because they don't want you to understand and overstand and understand that men by nature conquer. Men by nature have to be predatorial. How else are they going to hunt down the enemy and get rid of him? How else is he going to protect us? What we've seen happen is not toxic masculinity. What we've seen happen on this planet is evil, wicked, and evil behavior and wickedness. Because we have been overtaken by beings that are not human. But the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We have to stop fighting each other with fists and through our tongue by cussing and fighting each other and arguing with each other. So we have the rulers of darkness, spiritual wickedness, and high places that have controlled this world. Satanic beings. They're not from here. They may have made it with some humans and created hybrids here, but they're not from here. They hate humans. Some of them hate us. Some of us don't. Some of them don't. Some of them just want what we have. Some of them are jealous of us because we have what they call the God particle, because we have choices. We have a will. Some of them don't have a will, allegedly, because we have emotions. We emote. We have feelings. We're different. We're amazing. The human species. We're different. Some of them don't like us. Some of us want what we have, the resources on the planet. They want to inhabit this because they tore up their own galaxies, their own planets. But the deep state war is not just against humans or any particular race of people. It's against that entity, spiritual wickedness. The best way to fight against spiritual wickedness in the flesh is by going through proper channels. In the law arena, you need to be voting at your local level and creating laws at the local level. You need to be doing a real lawful petition, which a lawful protest isn't about marching around screaming and hollering and holding up signs. It's actually a document stating your grievance, having it notarized and pushed through proper channels to get your will accomplished. And if you have entities that are trying to take over your government, then yes, according to the Constitution, you can form your own militia to fight them down, to deal with that insurgence, to deal with that coup d'etat. But cussing each other out at this level, fighting each other, promoting and pushing racism and saying one race is better than the other and fighting each other, that was all planned so that we would not know who was really running things. But on a spiritual level, there are certain things that you can only accomplish by fasting and praying. Certain things you can only get done by communicating with the ancestors and with the Creator. Through meditation, prayer, and or fasting. Fasting is abstaining from food and different things that satisfy your flesh, like entertainment, like sex, over a period of time that you designate in order to commune with your highest self, your ancestors, and the Creator and or spirit. Some things are only accomplished by fighting in the spiritual realm, through communicating and connecting with your ancestors, through fasting, prayer, and meditation. And that's why in all different religious sects, they talk about fasting, disciplining your body, spending time away from sex. Sex is very pleasurable, magical, and you can, yes, have a Kundalini experience where you activate your pineal gland and your pituitary glands. But all sex doesn't do that. Most sex these days, like the brother said, we have to teach people how to do that. Is not used for that. It's used for procreation, but some people are just, I don't know, they're just using it for pleasure only, just copulating all over the place, not being responsible at all. But when you can discipline your body to abstain from the pleasure, abstain from television, abstain from social media, abstain from junk food, abstain from food for a certain period of time that you designate or that maybe you and the Creator have agreed upon, and you commune with the Most High and you meditate. Imagine if 1,000 of us, 100, hell, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, what we could accomplish if we meditated and called on the Creator at the same time by focusing on what we need to accomplish spiritually. Because when you fast, your body, the carnal man, decreases so that the spiritual part of you can increase. The scripture says a carnal man is enmity with God. He's an enemy of God, because the person that's always fulfilling the lust of the flesh is so concerned about feeding themselves, feeding their ego, feeding their body, feeding their sexual nature, that becomes a monster. It grows. And then the spiritual man, the man that's crying out to the Most High to deliver the human planet, the human species, or the planet, it's squelched. You can't hear it. It's quiet. So that's why I say some things we can only accomplish through fasting and praying. And that's what we need to be doing. The scripture says, 2 Chronicles 7:14, and correct me if I didn't get it all the way right. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves, turn from their wicked ways, seek my face and pray, then will I hear from heaven, and then will I heal their land. If my people who are called by my name, all the people says I'm a follower of the Most High, I celebrate the ancestors, I believe in the Creator, or if you call God Yahshua, whatever, my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and then will I heal their land. But if you're so involved in what's going on in social media, if we're so involved in what's going on in politics, if we're so involved in what's going on in entertainment, we're so involved in satisfying the flesh, if we have bastardized sex to the point where now we're engaging in pornography, not caring that most of those players or actors are sex trafficked children, women and men. We're so concerned about satisfying this flesh that we don't even care about delivering children and seeking the Most High and asking him or her and our galactic and interdimensional family members to come and help us. If we're so concerned about the flesh, then these entities can completely take over and continue to ruin us and control humanity. But we're turning away from that. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and then will I heal their land. That's what we need to be doing. So let's unite in fasting and in meditating and in prayer. I'm in the middle of a fast right now. How long? I'll tell you afterwards, because I don't know. I'm seeking the Most High. I'm seeking the Creator. I'm seeking Source. I'm seeking the ancestors. I'm seeking every interdimensional whatever that's benevolent that can help us, or ascended master, my highest self. And I'm connecting with those of you who are on my same frequency and bringing forth Nasar and Dasar. I'm bringing forth, I'm calling forth, I'm commanding the evil to be arrested. I'm commanding them to cease and desist. I'm commanding the evil forces and the bands of wickedness to be broken by my word, because my word is power. I'm casting spells on the demons. I command the demonic forces to loose their hold from all of the people that are here on this planet. I'm commanding them to let go of our children. I'm commanding the evil forces to loose their hold on God's people, to loose their hold on our minds, to release the shackles in my own name, in the name of my ancestors, in the name of the Creator and the Creatress. I command them to cease and desist. I command Satan and Lucifer and all of those satanic forces to cease and desist. I bind you and command that you go from which you came. And then I command all the portals to be closed. And I command all of the angels to come and support us. I command all the galactic beings, all the ancestors, all the future versions of us to come and assist us in this war and end it already. I command peace. I command love. I command justice. I command prosperity and abundance upon all of God's and Goddess's creation. In the name of all that is holy, righteous, and good, Ashe, it is so. Amen. Let it be. So family, that's it. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope I said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and make this a great evening. Sleep well, family. Peace. I love you. Bye-bye. Ashe, ashe, ashe-o. Good night. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support my work, you can send a cash app to $MamaKia13, $MAMAKIA13. Thank you for the blessings. I see $70 in the chat. I appreciate you, and I appreciate for the cash app, the super chats, and all that. Good night, family. I need to go. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.